Hello and welcome back to another video, and in today's video it is a livestock video. So what we're going to do is go through what meal we're feeding the livestock while they're out on grass. I've already made a video of what we were feeding them when they were inside for the winter eating silage, but now that they're outside we're also giving them meal, which ones we give meal to and how much we give to each and whatnot. So let's get into it, I guess. So here we have beef nuts, and in the white bin we have dairy nuts. So we have the cows and calves at the back of the yard down below there. The cows get dairy nuts out in a trough in a creep just out down there. The calves have their own sort of calf creep. They get some beef nuts and that. We have the two dry cows and the two heifers that are bulled and in calf down the shroy there with a trough. They get beef nuts, and then we have the weanlings up above at the back of our own house who also get beef nuts. So first of all, why is it the reason we give the cows dairy nuts, the calves beef nuts, and all them? The main reason why we're giving the cows their nuts in a passageway, a little runway, rather than out in the field, as at any time we want to bring them in case some of them go bulling or get injured or get sick or something like that, or even when we want to bring them in the next couple of days to a week for dosing. They'll follow a man in a bucket and they'll be waiting in the chute, the little runway there, and we can close the gate off to prevent them from going down the field, and then we can hunt them up and put them into the shed quite easily. That's why we're feeding them there. Well, that's why we're feeding the cows meal, and that's why we're feeding them in a runway. That's where they get it. Same reason with the cattle down in the shroy here. We bring them to a trough. They don't get a lot because we're not there to fatten them up or beef them up because they are in calf. They only get a small little bit, just to coax them to follow a man in a bucket, to bring them in for, well, hopefully they are in calf, but for dosing and all that, we can get them in quite handily. And then the same with the weanlings at the back of our own house. They get it in a little pen that they'll follow a man and a bucket as well, and then we can close the gate into that pen, and that will stop them from going down into the field. We can back up our cattle trailer to the pen, load them up into the trailer, bring them across the road, inside, dose them, and all that fun stuff. So we'll go through now the quantities of what each of them get in the bucket here, and we'll start off with the dairy nuts and the cows below there. So the dairy nuts for the cows, they get a full bucket. The reason why we give the cows a full bucket of dairy nuts is just to help them produce that little bit more milk when they're out on grass, when they're mixed with all the calves, because we have the two fresh cows that calved, so the two older calves, and then the last three cows that calved, so the younger calves, they're all together in the one bunch. So obviously the bigger calves, just because they're still with the cow, they are still consuming milk, and because they are bigger and older, they'll be consuming that little bit more milk. And if their mothers aren't producing enough milk, they'll start sucking off another cow and leaving the other calves, like the three younger calves, with little to no milk. But they're also out on grass, the calves, so they're eating grass and they're getting meal, so hopefully they're not consuming as much milk as they would if they were still inside and when they were that little bit younger. But since we started giving them their meal outside, their father did say to give them a full bucket of meal, and I haven't heard any changes in that quotation or quota yet. So I'm assuming that they're still getting a full bucket, so I will keep giving them a full bucket of dairy nuts. Up. Okay, so now the beef nuts that we're giving the cattle, usually we'd go with the beef 303 beef nuts, which is what we were feeding the weanlings and the 2 cows that we are fattening, the 2 dry cows that we are fattening, and the heifers that we were fattening before we sold them in the mart. They were being fed 303 beef nuts when they were in the shed. Now that they're outside, we're not, the main process or the main reason to give them meal isn't to actually fatten them up and get them ready for selling in the mart for farmers then to get them bring them to the for slaughter. Our main goal here for feeding them meal is just to get them sort of into a pen handy, or get loaded up into a trailer handy, just to get them inside for dosing and for other reasons, more handily than trying to hunt them with sticks and have a load of men chasing after them. So they'll follow a man with a bucket, and then obviously a man or 2 behind, just making sure everything is going smoothly as possible. So these beef nuts is 324 beef nuts, which is high gain beef nuts 16%. So 324 is an ideal high cereal beef nut for weaned calves through to beef. This 16% beef nut is a first choice nut to complement feeding at grass or silage, which is any livestock or animal that we're feeding these to are out on grass and eating grass. 324 beef nuts are formulated with quality raw materials and are fully fortified with minerals, vitamins and trace elements for animal vitality and growth. This nut provides vital nutrition to promote good live weight gain. So obviously a bit of live weight gain, no harm, but the amount that we're feeding them probably isn't going to give them a fairly good live weight gain that a lot of beef farmers are looking for. We're not really looking for a fairly good live weight gain. We're only looking for a bit of meal to get them used to coming to a trough or coming to a man with a bucket. And as I mentioned, so when they see a man with a bucket, they'll run towards you. And then when we want to come and the time that we want to come and dose them, or if they get sick, or if we want to bring them in to get them bulled or whatnot, it's more easier than trying to set up a makeshift chute or pen out of electric tape and all that sort of fun stuff. It's just easier for them to, you know, they're used to it now. They've been getting fed this sort of stuff now for a week or 2, and they're well used to it. You even saw the cows, they were literally standing at the trough in the little runway waiting for me. You'll probably see with the cows down in the shroy, they'll also be waiting fairly close to the trough waiting for me, and then the weanlings in the pen at the back of the house, you'll see them standing there waiting for me. So they are getting trained fairly well when it comes to getting meal fed to them. Also, we're only giving them meal, so the dairy nuts to the cows down below and these beef nuts to the rest of them, they only get fed once a day every morning. So now we'll focus on the calves. We're after giving the cows their dairy nuts. Now the calves have their own little calf creep down below in the field there. And as I mentioned, the reason that the cows aren't getting their nuts out in the middle of the field rather than having them come in there into the little chute or runway is that it's to bring them in for dosing and for bulling and all that. The calves, you know, we're not too worried about the calves, because wherever the cows go, the calves will follow. As you seen there earlier, when the cows were there waiting at the trough waiting for their meal, the calves were also with them. The calves weren't standing around or standing in their little calf creep waiting for me to come to them next. They were all together, so wherever the cows go, the calves will tend to follow. Anyways, the calves, 324 beef nuts for good live weight gain and all that. There's 2 reasons why we're giving the calves this, and it's not to coax them in and all that like the rest of them. It's just to give them a bit of meal along with the grass and their milk, just to, you know, promote good live weight gain for them, and just to put a bit more conditioning on them and build up their bodies and muscles that little bit more, and a little bit quicker as well. So they'll get a half a bucket of the 324 beef nuts. Something like that. And that's the little calf creep there. So you can see you have the bar going across on the top, just so that the calves themselves can go in and come out as they please, but the cattle cannot go near the trough and the meal that's within sight for the calves, who are looking pretty good, all looking happy and healthy. So I won't disturb them too much, but as you can see, the cows have eaten their meal already, and yeah, I leave the calves alone because they are running away now, but once I'm gone they'll most likely come back to the trough and the meal. Now, when we started giving them the meal about a week or two ago, they were sort of unsure whether or not they should go inside and whatnot, so they were hesitant. But a couple of days later they were going in. Well, a couple of them were going in, maybe the two bigger ones, because they would have been more braver and all that. But eventually, after maybe a week or two, the rest of them, the two bigger ones and the three smaller ones, have got going, have found out that it is a nice and safe place. Only them can go into it, and there's some nice meal waiting inside for them as well. But yeah, it's they just weren't too inclined to go in at first, and during the first period of time that they were out and were witnessing this new little shed thing, every morning that I came down just to give them the meal, I would always have to check to see was there anything left in before I came down with a bucket and to give them more. And probably like 8 times out of 10 at the start, there was still some left over, so it was taking them about 2 days to eat that half a bucket of meal. But again, it probably wasn't the 5 of them that was going in eating it, and at this very moment in time the 5 of them are going in eating the meal, and it's cleaned, scoffed every morning, so I don't have to be coming down checking to see if it's set or not. I can go straight away, fill the half a bucket, come down, and it is emptied. So yeah, anyways, we'll move on to the next ones, which is the heifers in the field there beside us there. Up next is the 2 heifers and the 2 cows that are in calf below in the straw there. They also get the 324 beef nuts. We also only give them half a bucket for them. Something like that again. Get back. Yeah. Yeah. Get back. Yeah. Yeah. Last but not least on the meal feeding list is the 4 weanlings. They also get half a bucket of the 324 beef nuts, and you'll see it now in the next clip, but they are in a little pen. It has a concrete floor, it has gates, it even has its own crush. So they're getting their meal in a trough in that pen, and we'll go over to them across the road. And that is that. The 324 beef nuts, you seen what got them and how much they get, and the dairy nuts, you see what got them and how much they get. So before I go, we'll basically just quickly explain while I'm showing you what I meant throughout the video what I meant throughout the video when I was saying to get them in easier, to coax them in. Because when it comes to the cows here, if we weren't feeding them meal, it wouldn't be all that easy to get them in. They probably would follow a man with a bucket and that, but probably not as well and not as well used to when they were getting fed. So as you can see here, the setup, that out there on the horizon is the field that the cows and calves are in. And there's that green gate that we can close. So this is the gate, this green one, that will close to that concrete pillar. I don't think they're getting meal again. But yeah, this is the field that they're in, as you can see. Obviously I'm here, I don't even have a bucket to see me, they're running towards me. So that goes to show how easy it's going to get them into the shed, to get whatever needs AI in, or bulled, AI'd and bulled, and then for whatever needs to get dosed. So they'll come in here, one man on a bucket will guide them in here, they'll follow you, they'll go with the trough. Once they're all in, another man will be hiding out in the field somewhere, then they will close that gate. And now we mightn't feed them the meal in the trough, we might just have a handful of meal just to coax them in, just to sort of think that they're getting meal like they are now when they're not. And then once they're here, the man maybe with the bucket might go further into this pen here, the man behind them will hunt them on a bit more. Once they're in this pen here, we'll close this gate around. Once they're all settled, this gate and that gate join up together, they join up to each other to make a little runway. So when they're opened like that, when them two gates are joined, they'll run up to here, that door will be closed, they'll run up into the chute there, into the pen, and they are inside for bulling, AI or dosing, all that fun stuff. So that's basically the system I have, what I was explaining throughout the video. And you can just see for yourself, I didn't even have a bucket, they just seen and heard me come to the gate, and you've seen through the video that they just ran up towards me. If they weren't getting meal in that trough, that probably wouldn't be the scenario or the situation. Because they're so used to getting meal now, they don't even have to see a bucket, all they have to do is see a man, a farmer, and they're there, handy enough. So yeah, and then when it comes to the weanlings, they'll obviously be either waiting in that pen that you've seen them waiting in, and we'll be able then to close the gate behind them. They're stuck in that pen. We can back up a trailer then to the other gate, the outside gate that I get access to get into that pen. There's two gates. You have the outside gate that has access to the pen and the outside world, and then you have the other pen that gives you access to the pen to the field. So I have the outside pen, that's where I get in and out to give them their meal. You can back up the trailer to that gate, load them into the trailer. Obviously they're weanlings, getting them into the trailer mightn't be all that easy, but getting them into the pen to load them into the trailer, that's the easy part. They're getting trained very well that when they see a man or they see a bucket, they're there waiting in the pen. As I mentioned, every single one of them that got meal today, they get it once a day, every morning. Now the weanlings sometimes, depending on what sort of activity they're seeing across the road or like on the yard or somewhere around their vicinity, they're there standing within the pen at the trough lewin, waiting to get more meal. So that goes to show how easy it will to get them in. When it comes to the two dry cows and the two heifers that are in calf, there is two ways that we can get them inside. Now they're in the shroy, which is this field here, and there's two gates into the shroy. There's this gate here, and then the other gate is up above where I got into the fields to feed them their meal where the trough is. So one way that we could do it is obviously they'll be used to the man with the bucket and the meal. So first of all, we'd have to set up everything here. This tape would have to be taken down. We would run a tape from, there's an old mushroom thing tied around the post there somewhere. We'd run an electric tape from that concrete pillar the whole way down to that green gate and into that runway where the cows here get their meal. If they're not inside, we might have to fence them off a bit, just to keep them away. But we'll run a fence from the gate there all the way up to the other gate. We'll have a man then with a bucket. They'll follow the man with the bucket hopefully, and then another man or two behind them, sort of keeping the ball rolling, keep them going. And then we'll run them up that way, up the chute, and then basically what I explained, the situation to get the cows in, put them into the pen, join the two gates opened, up through the chute and into the dry pen. It'll be that exact same situation for those as well as it is for them if we do it this way. Now the other way is, and this other way is the way that we got them into this field. We could have got them into that field doing that way as well, but there's another way that we can use it there's another way that we can bring them into the shed using the cattle trailer, which is the way we basically the way that we done it to put them into the field. Now we can either use the cattle trailer and get them and load them up at this gate, or we can load them up at the gate below where the trough is closest to. We could back the cattle trailer down to this gate, the other gate, and as you can see that's the trough there. So it's probably this side, the other gate is further down that way. It'd be probably this gate to be the more handier, because that's where they're getting their meal and that's where the trough is. So all you have to do is sort of back in the jeep and trailer or tractor and trailer to this gate, and we can load them up that way with the cattle trailer, or the same below at the other gate, we can load them in that way. So again, two options there: either put up a makeshift runway using electric tape and run them up through this field, from that field up to the field where the cows and calves are, and then into the shed, or use a cattle trailer. When it comes to the cows, as I mentioned, that they're easy enough, and then the weanlings, it's a cattle trailer. And there we go. That is why we're giving them cattle whatever amount of meal that they are getting. And now you know the procedure, or the steps, or the ways that we can get the cattle in more easier to get them bulled or AI'd. So the four down in the shroud there, they're all bulled. There's one cow down below there that's bulled. The bigger, the older black cow is bulled. We have the brownie heifer, the second cow to calve. We have the white cow or heifer, the younger black heifer or cow, and then we have the other mousy cow down below. All need to be bulled, and I think as I'm recording this video, it'll be tomorrow evening we'll be bringing them in, and we just cannot seem to get them in heat or kind of catch them a bulling. So we are going to be giving them sort of different injections and stuff, and putting cedars in them, just to simulate that procedure, and then we can get them AI'd and bulled, and hopefully in calf. Yeah, so as I'm recording this video, it will probably be tomorrow evening that we do that. And then obviously over the weekend, Saturday, or maybe next weekend on a Saturday, we will be getting them all inside. Cows, the cows down below there, the cows and heifers below there, and the weanlings down below there, all bringing them in, giving them their little dosing, whatever dosage and doses they need, and then putting them back out onto grass again. But that is it for today's video, the life with the livestock. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out my merch. The link to that will be down in the description, and I'll see you in my next video very soon. Take care.